So today I'm going to train arms. I'm not going to train a complete arm day, but I'm going to do, I think, either biceps or triceps.
So this will be day number 3 of editing the YouTube videos and recording them, just making sure that I'm staying in the rhythm, staying in the routine. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Obviously, early days, so reminds me of people that are just getting into the gym and have that kind of beginner mentality where, you know, everything's really exciting and you're making that progress really quickly. And then unfortunately for some people, you do end up dropping off a little bit. So that's not to say that that happens to everyone, and it certainly shouldn't happen. And we can talk a little bit more about how to avoid kind of burnouts and plateaus and drops in motivation. But just to give a little insight into the session here. So I was talking about there not doing a full arm day, and in a way this is kind of true because I'm pretty sure I only do 2 exercise variations, but I did do biceps here, and then you'll see I do triceps later. So keeping it really simple, as you saw at the beginning of the video, this was, I think, after I'd still been ill for a few days, so that's why I probably had no energy, but nevertheless still getting a really good session in. So yeah, to be fair, probably is a good topic to talk about, and something for a few of you guys that are beginners is if you are making fantastic progress and you find that after a while you either stop losing fat as quickly or your muscle gain starts to slow down a little bit, what you should then do is actually take that as a challenge to build more knowledge and actually adapt to whatever may be happening. Don't just take it as, oh, this is how it is now, I'm not going to make any more progress, I'm kind of on the decline. This is your opportunity to now take that and look at what you're currently doing, seeing what patterns work, seeing what things might need to be improved. And then from there, you can actually look to implement that into your training. And trust me, it's really rewarding when you have a roadblock or something which is limiting you or you think is limiting you. And sometimes you might even just find that for whatever reason, it is actually a signal for you to either take a rest or maybe switch up your program completely. But basically what I'm trying to say is those signals are there for a reason. So if you can learn to respond to them and actually understand what the body's trying to tell you and why it's trying to tell you that, then trust me, like I said, you'll be able to actually learn from it and come back better and stronger in the future. So with that being said, what I'm doing here is a variation which, again, I've learned works really well for me. So the guy next to me doing preacher curls, he probably absolutely loves that exercise, and I do as well. But for me now, or at this point in time when I was filming this, my wrist was still much more sore than it currently is. So I didn't like to put as much pressure in that position. Now, I know that might sound silly because obviously I'm here doing curls which still put a lot of pressure on the wrist. But obviously, realistically, I can only describe the pain that I'm feeling. And from trying probably 20 different bicep exercises, this is probably the one that actually feels the best, and I don't get any wrist pain or joint pain. Now, I think that's because as the bar's going down, it kind of just can come down at a free motion. There's no weird restrictions from cables or machines, and yeah, it can just come down to a stretch. That's the other part of the exercise which I really like, is the stretch. So it allows me to just put a huge emphasis on that eccentric part of the movement as I'm coming down there, and then still come up pretty high. So this is actually a good angle to show you the distance that I'm coming up. As you can see, it's not all the way, but I am getting a good distance. And at the start of the reps, I'm mainly aiming to actually curl up to my forehead, and you can see I'm kind of leaning down a little bit. But as the set goes on, and sometimes just for variation, I'll actually look straight ahead and just try and curl it up into my chest. And that's something which I'll also vary when I'm doing standing easy bar curls, which I can now do quite comfortably. And those, for example, I'll do some sets where my chest is upwards and then other sets where I'm leaning a bit further forward. Now, I think both of them have benefits. If I'm leaning back a bit more, I find that I've got more range of motion, but then it places a little bit more emphasis on my core, which can then cause the set to actually stop a little bit earlier. So yeah, pros and cons. And again, try things out and don't just try it out once. Either try it for a few times in a row, or if you don't like it, then maybe come back to it when circumstances have changed. I can't tell you guys how many times I've bulked and then cut and then gone through different periods in training, and actually one exercise which I absolutely hated, I now completely love, and vice versa. So yeah, again, it's all a learning experience, and if you can just take your time preparing yourself for the different exercises that you might want to try over the years or over the months, then yeah, just be open-minded about it and you'll just benefit from it basically. So here I'm doing, again, another exercise which really works for me, which is kind of an easy bar style push down, and I have gone through every single basically attachment for triceps and love them all individually. So this one, a flat bar, a V bar, a rope, a single arm rope, a single arm D handle, a metal D handle, you know, the list goes on. And it just does show that at each point in time, for whatever reason, that was the right grip for me. It could be my wrist, it could be my body weight, it could be the actual attachment physically itself based on different gyms. There's multiple different things, but yeah, again, you guys need to just make sure, or well, you don't have to make sure, but if possible, try your absolute best to make sure that you're balancing your schedule and your training, at least in the way that works for you. So if you want to focus more on strength, that's fine, and you can do that, but perhaps make sure that you're focusing on strength still with that full body outlook. I wouldn't suggest doing full body, that's not what I mean, but you know, don't just train all chest strength and no back strength would be my argument. Now, I'd say that probably applies maybe a little bit more in terms of muscle size, but then again, it actually can create injuries if you have an imbalance. So if you've got a really tight chest, having rounded shoulders, you know, that's not really the type of physique or posture that your body's going to prefer, and it's then going to get quite uncomfortable over time, which can lead to pain, discomfort, and just overall a negative experience. But in terms of obviously actual physique wise, not just for aesthetics, but again, it can kind of create a bit of a imbalance in terms of the way that you're sitting upright in a chair, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you walk, and obviously your whole body's linked. So if you've got a weak point in your back, that can impact your shoulders, that can impact your neck, and it's kind of a chain that goes down, which is why a lot of the time if you go to physio, they won't just focus on the actual muscle itself, they might focus on the muscles which work around it or which actually go against it. Anyway, enough talk about physio, but yeah, so a few sets on the push downs now. So gone from biceps to triceps. At this point in time, arms are getting pretty pumped up, especially triceps from doing those push downs, getting a very good pump here. I would imagine at this point, I'm probably about, 257 pounds maybe, because this was literally like pretty much the upper limit. I was just very much stuck at the high 250s, but full of carbs. This was definitely a late workout as well, because I remember this one, and also this would have been the peak of summer and it's dark. So yeah, late workout, probably around 8 o'clock, meaning that I've had at least, I would imagine, 2 or 3 substantial meals at that point in time. So yeah, just works well. And honestly, I think for me, at that point in time anyway, bulked up sessions were very, very strong. Since I've been cutting and dropping my food right down and fasting for a lot of the time, even up to 22 hours was kind of my routine, which again, I don't recommend that. And that's definitely not what you want to be doing to achieve maximum muscle hypertrophy if that was your only goal. But balancing everything that I do and my enjoyment and my actual consistency, which is obviously really important. That's why as a coach, I wouldn't just tell people to completely cut things out. You have to be realistic to actually achieve the end goal sustainably and kind of try and maximize everything rather than optimize it. But I've completely gone off track with what I was trying to say there. But basically, it did really benefit me to train later at night, because that is the time where I'd have the most glycogen, the most food, and the body is basically primed, ready to build muscle and be powerful. However, when I'd be cutting down, I preferred to enjoy my food after the gym. I liked the consistency and the discipline of fasting. And I just didn't really find that when I had that first meal, it even made much of a dent in terms of my energy levels. I actually found that sometimes it would almost give me a tiny bit of a crash. Sometimes that would happen on a bulk as well, but I just think the overall effect of being carved up was a net positive. So yeah, again, experiment with it, guys. Do some sessions fasted, do some sessions not fasted, but I would say if you are bulking, probably is in your best interest to get the food in, and you definitely don't want to be getting in the habit of letting your food start late in the day. At least if you have any sort of problems trying to get those calories in, best advice is get it in early in the day, which I would imagine for a lot of you guys right now, if you are into the gym, you may be bulking at this point in time, so could be very good advice. But then again, I know there's always a huge part of the population who are just on a mission to constantly lose weight. So yeah, perhaps try some fasting. What I would say about fasting is it's never enjoyable in the first few days, and then it kind of just gets easier from there. And again, that's only something that you can actually experience. I remember my mate at uni taught me how to do it. Max, shout out to you, mate. And first few sessions, we were doing computer work at uni, and I just remember sitting there thinking, this is fucking ridiculous. But 2-3 days in, pushed through and waited probably, I'd say at least another 4 hours from where I'd usually have my first meal, pushed it back a little bit. And it was just an absolute, it was just an absolute game changer for me. And I do believe that without intermittent fasting, I just wouldn't be in the position that I am today, and I would not have the ability to lose weight or fat anywhere near as efficiently as I do now. So yeah, with that being said, obviously that's a very powerful statement, I'd say, and something which I completely stand behind. So have a look at the benefits of fasting for health as well. I wouldn't advise doing anywhere over 72 hours, but yeah, it could be worth trying a little one. But yeah, for bulking, get those calories in as soon as you can, start that fire early in the day and just keep it burning all the time. So we'll get into a quick pose down now, and I again don't have audio for this, which is a little bit annoying, but I promise you guys the videos that are coming are just kind of natural during the session commentary, which should be good. But this one here, I basically did probably around 8 to 10 sets, I would say, as kind of a minimum, so somewhere around there. But as I said, I did feel tired here, so probably wasn't loads more than that. I personally wouldn't be doing much more than 5 sets per exercise. I think that's kind of the limit to where you're then just going through the motions and having to just constantly drop the weight. Then again, I will do it sometimes. There's always an exception, but usually a bit of variation can do you good. So here I actually can probably benefit from the lighting compared to the previous few videos, which I did a pose down in the check-in room, which for whatever reason the background there is just not very nice and doesn't really make you look great. Whereas here, bit of a decent backdrop, and the lighting, you can actually see still got some sort of definition on the obliques there, but yeah, not much at all, and definitely got a lot of lower body fat. So it's crazy seeing how much I've changed now, and those are going to be some pretty crazy videos coming up. But at this point in time, I am consistently raising my calories, and weight is just being extremely stubborn, and that is basically what happened here. I just kind of hit a plateau, but at this point in time there was a lot of other factors that were leading me to want to diet down as well, such as digestion, such as being in a surplus for such a long time and not being as actually responsive to growing. Whereas now I'm very much fresh off of a diet, and so it is still necessary for me to push forward. So that will probably be a topic for the next video, just how to get around plateaus when gaining weight might be a good one. And also on the flip side, I'll do another one for cutting down. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video. Pretty much coming to an end now. I think the next one is a leg day, so that'll be a good one to do there, kind of mixing it up. A lot of these videos are back to back, but then there's some which are just random, so they won't all be consistent, but there'll be some good ones, and I'll try and get a range in there. So yeah, take it easy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.